Hey, if you're like, why is this guy making a video? I thought they were done with the Steadfast Steward updates. Guess what? So did I. But it looks like they have just kind of some miscellaneous changes in here, thrown in here. Not super long. Figured I'd go through it anyways. Maybe there's some interesting stuff in here. I don't know. I haven't looked at it yet. Reminder that this is in the description. My Twitch is in the description. Twitch.tv/MarinerHawk. My Discord is in the description. Anything else that you would need in there. I will be making a full Steadfast Steward guide that will be ready for Hellion and Leper specifically, but they'll be ready. I might have this stuff in there also, but it'll be ready when they go live next week. I will have that all set up. So let's look at one tiny little some miscellaneous changes in here. See if there's anything interesting. Miscellaneous fixes. I have not seen any of this yet. It's fun to kind of look at it and give you guys some insight, I guess, the first time that I kind of look on something. So nothing interesting in here. Heal icon instead of region. Flagellant, Wanderer, more and more plus cooldown increase from 1 to 2. Jesus, okay. Well, they're coming out hot. Jesus. All right, they're coming in hot with this one. Yeah, that probably needed to happen. I understand why they kind of drug their feet on that one. I don't blame them. It's gonna be interesting to really see how this plays. But yeah, Marmor is just such a loaded ability. It's one of those abilities that, like, if it used, as weird as it sounds, if it's used in the hands of like AI or like the enemies, it wouldn't be the biggest deal in the world, just based on the fact that like if you're at 1 health, you're not gonna more and like accidentally die, right? Like you're gonna use it when you can get the most value out of it, which you can get the full heals out of it essentially. And taunts in this game are just so strong. It's just one of those abilities that is so simple, but is so loaded at the same time. Probably better this happens. It's gonna be really interesting to see how this feels though. I was playing Carcass Hellion, and now she has Revelry. Revelry was an ability kind of like more where I pressed it every other turn when it was off cooldown. And now that it has a 2-turn cooldown, I definitely feel it a little bit. It's necessary, I think, but I feel it a little bit, and more. Whew, it's gonna take a bit to get used to. More plus taunt increased from 2 to 3. It's gonna be really interesting. See how that feels. Suffers dot removal effects. Some actors but 5. Nothing interesting. Maniac. Fist an issue where target idled during lashes and last gift left plus. Did nothing interesting. Exanimate. Acid Rain no longer grants increased blight duration during combo. Acid Rain and Acid Rain Plus now grants 30% blight res piercing versus combo. Punish, same thing. This restores equivalent combo interactions to the Wanderer equivalent of these skills of their master and unmaster state, while still benefiting from Exanimate's innate plus blight for low health. There's been, in general, kind of in this game, like some bouncing around between these two about whether something that hits combo should get +1 blight duration or blight piercing. Honestly, I don't really know how I feel because they both have like good uses. They're kind of like, I don't know, they're kind of mostly the same to me. Like there's time when you would like to have that extra duration, especially on Exanimate because he can get that extra blight. And there's time when you would want that piercing. So I don't know. I mean, I guess the idea is that at least this one feels less bad because it at least sticks in some way, especially with Exanimate if you're playing around the like below 50% aspect of it. This the +1 duration doesn't matter if it doesn't stick. And at least this makes it, especially on the backline, this makes it probably more often. Most enemies will probably have 0 or 10, other than like in the Fetter. I guess the idea is this is a little better. My argument kind of would be it's easy, and they said it in the patch notes for Steadfast or for Hellion and Leper, but like they kind of mentioned it. It's easier to get blight piercing via trinkets than it is to get blight duration. So I would rather have the duration in general on the abilities and then just go for the trinkets or whatever that you could get, or go for the crits. But I understand why they changed it to this. I don't think it's a huge change either way, because I like I said, I think there's some situations where you would want either one. I think it just depends on. It's almost like if you could pick and choose, that'd be nice. Obviously, it doesn't work like that, but this probably does feel better as like a catch-all than the increased duration. So it's understandable. Lash's gift have been reworked on Scourge. Lash's gift now converts the Flagellant's stress into self-healing. Interesting. Lash's gift now has a low chance to grant 2 crit, dramatically increased per toxic token. There's a chance to grant 2 crit. Huh. Lash's gift plus shares the same benefits, but can now target anybody for the healing crit tokens. Dramatically increased per toxic token. Okay, so they want to lean into the extra the actual, I mean, what you're supposed to with Scourge instead of Deathless the path, like leaning into more into it. Interesting. Lash's gift performed a very similar function to the upgraded Suffer. Yeah, so it's been reworked to provide an additional outlet for the Scourge of Stress for those who do not wish to risk the negative relationship aspect of Toxic. It also provides a great deal of firepower for those who want to steep themselves into this toxic state. Really interesting. Okay, let's take a second. I want to look at that Lashes. Requires self-stress is 5+, -3 stress, 5% heal per stress. And has a 10% chance to grant 2 crit tokens. Chance of crit tokens increased by 30% per toxic token. Wow. That sounds kind of crazy. I'm wondering how that... does that change the way you play in any way? I mean, it definitely sets up for Endure, which is really interesting. Yeah, it definitely sets up... I wonder if you feel... I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I get is the argument that it's an or like it's instead of more. That is really interesting though, because if you don't want to play into Toxic, it has a use with the heal. If you do want to play into Toxic, the increase of the chance of crit chance goes up. It does dramatically increase. Yeah, that's crazy. So on 3, I mean that'd be a crazy fight for you to get 3 toxic tokens. But at 3 toxic tokens, it's 100%. Got a cooldown of 2. That's a weird ability. I'm not really sure where to fit that. That is super. That's kind of crazy though. It's kind of a crazy ability. I don't know if Scourge is the one that needed this. Scourge is kind of, you know, probably the best path in the game. It's really interesting though. So he can't give himself horror in any way. I guess he could steal horror. That counts. I wonder how that would play. How would you play that? So definitely it sets up for like Endure value. Does this make Scourge like a legit stress healer now? It might. It honestly might. It's a little slower than obviously like Jester or anybody else, but that might make it maybe a legit option. That's really interesting. And that does set up the main thing that I think of with these crit tokens is it sets up for Deathless getting a fat heal. Obviously you want to play it aggressively, but that's kind of nuts. That is a very interesting ability. I wonder what that's gonna play like. Alright, let's get into some of the other ones. Grave Robber, fix an issue with Dead and I, blah 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 blah. Poison Dart now increases the blight from 2. Oh, so it does get the duration on a crit. Nice. Okay, so they're putting it into individual abilities now, or at least they have the idea of putting it into individual abilities. So what the old crit was, which was increase the duration, Grave Robber has it, or at least Poison Dart has it now. Interesting. Crit hit affecting the blight on Poison Dart were a big part of the combo incentive. The skill has been updated to reflect that and account for changes in how crit interacts with dot durations. Interesting. So that's the Wanderer Grave Robber, or the Wanderer Poisoner. I think all of them use the poison. Maybe Venom Drop doesn't? Yeah, I don't think Venom Drop does. Hold on, let me look. I don't think Venom Drop uses it. Yeah, Venom Drop doesn't get that. Wonder how that works. It says increase to 5 turns. So does that not work with the one that the trinket that increases the duration anyways? Because it doesn't say increase it by 2. It says increase it to 5 turns. I wonder if that doesn't have the interaction maybe you think it does. Venom Drop. Thrown Dagger now applies weak if the target has Blight when unmastered as well. Unmastered version of the skill is distinctly weaker than the Wanderer version with no benefit, so both versions now share the Venom Drop specific styling, the skill, and the mastery remains in the increased damage and crit. Yeah, this is something I said it should be for a while, because I actually really like I really like that weak aspect to it. I think it does actually, I think that is an underrated aspect on the left there. I think that is an underrated aspect that you could put into Venom Drop. I do like having that. That can save you in some really good situations. But it only being on the mastered made this kind of weird, weirdness where like you don't run Thrown Dagger on Venom Drop really until you master it, and then by that point you've already been running for whatever ability, you know, Pick to the Face or whatever ability you've been running. So it's kind of like you want to switch at this point. I don't know. So that's really, really nice. That's a small change, but I actually think that's really good. Hellion, all skills can now be used at maximum Winded. Winded is sufficiently punishing enough as it is, so you might as well be able to use the heavily penalized skills. This also keeps the Hellion a little closer to the play experience some people have been accustomed to. This definitely is going to feel better. I think if you're going to play into full Winded and then you want to, you know, you want to use a big ability like a Carcass on Howling End or whatever, or any of those abilities that require you to be at 3 Winded, I think that's just like part of the play style, and that's just one of the downsides of the play style. So I'm not, you know, I don't love that just because I don't mind when things have downsides, but there's no doubt that that's going to feel better, and that probably is a good change. Just because I'm maybe not crazy with it doesn't mean I don't like empathize a little bit and sort of understand. I understand why they made that change. It's probably a good move. If it bleeds and if it bleeds plus, increased bleed duration has been adjusted so it'll also apply additional sources of bleed that may be attached to the skill. This matches it to the style of Plague Doctor's Incision, which has the same kind of combo bonus. Okay, so the way that this is worded, so the way that the Venom Drop Poison Dart is worded specifically says increases it to 5 turns. So what I said is I think that makes it so it doesn't work with anything else that adds duration, because how it used to be is combo or crits would add 2 to duration. So they would add 2 turns. So if you had the trinket that added 2 already, it would add 2 more onto that. But it looks like with Poison Dart, that doesn't stack. And this wording makes me think that's intentional, because this is saying it'll also apply to any additional sources of bleed that may be attached to the skill. I believe. Well, let me read that. I believe that's what it's saying. So it's saying Venom Drop does not get that option.
There is emptiness and shame.
Yeah, because it doesn't say it. Yeah. I think I'm right. I think I'm right with that. So Venom Drop, Poison Dart, or whatever. Wanderer Poison Dart. Wanderer Poison Dart doesn't get. It locks it at 5. It can't be 7, basically. It can't be 7, because there were times where you could, with the old extra duration, you could get 2 from a trinket and then 2 more, from the crit, and that would make it 7 turns. I don't know if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say. But it looks like that this, where it can't be 7, is only on, or it can't be extra, is only on Wanderer Poison Dart. I don't know if that makes any sense. It makes any sense. I hope you kind of understand what I'm saying. Highwayman, Open Vein combo effect has been changed from 4 bleed to 100% bleed dealt. 100% bleed. At the base, this results in Open Vein dealing the same amount of bleed versus combos it previously did. However, the bonus now applies to any additional sources of bleed or bleed modifiers that are attached to the skill, allowing it to remain more competitive against other skills such as Survivor's Searing Strike. So am I understand? Obviously, this is very niche. But if I understand this correctly, hold on, let me look at that. Oh, it'd be okay. So if it was mastered, if you had mastered that 3, I was thinking with the is it Lashing Tides, the one that's 100% bleed dealt, the fish trophy, because it would double twice. Yeah, because it would double twice, would it not? So that'd be 12 bleed. If I understand that correct, because it'd go from 3 to 6 and then 6 to 12. If I understand that correctly, assuming that's, yeah, if I understand that correctly. I mean, Open Vein is a little bit of an utilized skill, I feel like. So it's a very niche situation, but I could see that being kind of crazy. I guess that works with position cause of death also. Something. I don't know. I would have to see that, but that is kind of funny. Yellow Hand, Open Vein increased from 5 to 10. Open Vein Plus from 10 to 15. Just a small buff since the Wander version all those received an improvement. Fuck it, I'm down. I love Yellow Hand, so I'm down. Occultist Wanderer, Malediction Plus text update. Updated or reflect any debuff being resisted as part of the skill will result in the unchecked power refund. Yes, this means trinkets inflicting resisted debuffs when casting malediction will refund the unchecked power. Enjoy. Hold on, let me look at that. I'm not entirely sure what that means.
To know the abyss, one must embrace it.
I think I'm missing something. I don't quite. It means that trinkets inflicting resisted debuffs and casting malediction will refund. Okay, so if you had like, okay, I get it. I think. Okay, so I'm thinking something like Sparkle Ball, right? Sparkle Ball is a 15% chance, I believe it is, to give 4 any debuff or give any number of 4 debuffs. So if any one of those, one of those gets resisted, yeah, as part of this skill, does that count as part of this skill? Trinkets inflicting resisted debuff, yeah. So that does what that means. So if you had something like Sparkle Ball or like Anatomical Map, there's a pretty decent chance that at least one of those is going to be resisted. And you're just gonna get the unchecked power token back anyways. So you could get the actual part of the ability, the combo part of the ability to stick, but also get refunded because like one of the debuff trinkets gets resisted. That's super funny. So you can use this for free with a couple different trinkets. You can use this for free on a relatively normal basis. That's kind of funny. That's such a random funny thing to add there, but that is. I kind of like that. I mean, I don't know how many people are using Wander Malediction, so I think anything that kind of like lifts it up, it gives it a use, even if that use is really weird. That is really funny, though. That's really funny. Malediction to Malediction plus enemy heal change from 4 static health to 2 regen. That makes sense. That's probably good. Yeah, because it allows you to like react better, because if it's just 4 health, you're like, well, fuck me, I guess. But at least if it's regen, you can at least react to it in some way. Malediction hero chance increased from 33 to 75%. Malediction plus hero chance increased from 66 to 100. Huh. Regen spends the equivalent former heal over 2 turns, giving a greater allowance for following up to kill the target before it benefits from the heal and fixing some edge cases behaviors of Death's Door. Hero chance now has an increase to make it more viable at both tiers. Okay, so they really kind of yeah, they really kind of ramped this up. They kind of took it safe. They kind of took it safe when they first came out with this, which is understandable. But now this is a pretty legit healing. This kind of in some way can heal your whole team, kinda. And not full heal, but at least heal a pretty decent amount. If you count combat items also, which I assume work with this. I mean, it's not ridiculous to think that you could heal at least a couple of people, like 8. I assume you can double this up also, because if it requires 2 unchecked power tokens, might be a little hard. Maybe it might be a little. I mean, it is Warlock, so you're getting him for free. So yeah, you could probably double this up. Just heal 8, like on a boss or something like that. Yeah, I think that's probably a good move. Yeah, it came out. They were pretty safe when it first came out with it. So that is interesting. I still don't know if I'm gonna use that, but it does have a use case. But I don't know, man. Warlock is such like a oppressive path with its damage, in my personal opinion, that I don't think there's a lot of room to run anything other than what you run. You know, I guess you could take off something. But like, I mean, I guess you don't really need like I run like that. I guess if there's a reason you could take off Binding Shadows, I don't know, or take off Abyssal, then I guess you could do that. I don't know if there's any situation you'd switch Burning Stars off. Alright, I'm not even on the right path, technically. I don't know if there's a justification to take it off. I don't know. It's just such an efficient ability. That's the problem is you have to, you know, maybe you go like Sack Stab instead of Binding Shadows. I don't know. Could you do this without Chaotic Offering? Maybe. I don't know, man. That's the problem, is this is such kind of an oppressive path with its skills. I don't really know what you switch out. Surgeon, Incision and Incision Plus now have plus 30% bleed versus combo. Yeah, I know people were saying that Incision is just kind of worse. Or Incision is just kind of worse on Surgeon. I think that's people mostly being used to Incision just blowing people up, how it did in the old Surgeon path. I get it though. I mean, it's cool to have anyways. Position. True. Emboldening Vapors and Emboldening Vapors Plus are now single target. Now converts all of a random negative token type instead of one. Wait, is this supposed to be Physician or Surgeon? What the fuck are we talking about? Oh, this is supposed to be... Oh, I get it. Okay, so Incision, this... Okay. So this is supposed to be another header. Okay, I get it. This is supposed to be another header. Okay. So these changes are Physician. Okay. Emboldening Vapors and Emboldening Vapors Plus are now single target. I like the AoE aspect, though. Emboldening Vapors now converts all of a random negative token type instead of only one. So it's all of one token. So if you happen to have, like, 2 vulns, it'll pick both of those vulns instead of just one, if I understand. Emboldening Vapors Plus now converts all of 2 random negative token types. Emboldening Vapors Plus no longer has a chance to convert weak into crit. Oh. I kind of like that, but it's fine. This change allows more targeted application to prevent cases where this positive token generated is simply canceled out by another negative token type. That was kind of weird. Yeah, so if you had 2 vulns, it would turn one of the vulnerables into a block, which would offset the second vulnerable, so you'd get nothing. Which, like, I don't know. I thought that was kind of a... I get it. That doesn't feel great. So let's look at that now. Yeah, so it's only single target instead of AoE. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not crazy about that off the top of my head. Just because I think it being AoE, I think it being the whole team really did differentiate it from Indiscriminate Science. I know Indiscriminate Science is just such a good ability, but I did think the AoE aspect did make it like in a place like the Shroud, where the stupid fish breath comes in. I think it did have. I mean, I don't know if that's niche technically, but I don't know. There's scenarios where you would get 2 blinds or something like that. There are attacks, and being able to do that. I'm not crazy about that, to be honest. Maybe I would have to try this. Okay, so the way that this is worded, the upgraded version right there of Emboldening Vapors. Invert all and then repeat for another token type. So if you basically, it's saying that if you had 2 weaks and 2 vulns, those would turn into 2 stress and 2 block. Because it counts however many of a negative token you have, it counts that as 1. So whether you have 1 weak token or 1 weak token or 2 weak tokens, it will invert either the 1 or both. It doesn't consider them as 2. I hope that makes sense. I really liked the AoE aspect of this. I not as crazy about this. I think this kind of moves it back into overlapping with Indiscriminate Science. I know it's not a direct overlap. I don't know. Maybe I'd have to play it. Maybe it would feel better when I played it. I'm not crazy about that personally. I like this. I like this. I like it considering all of 1 negative token. I like it considering the stack as 1. I do like that. I don't know. The more I think about it, I'm not convincing myself otherwise. I'm not crazy that that's single target, personally. I liked it as an AoE purpose, but... I mean, there's no doubt that it's probably more likely that you're going to have 2 negative tokens on 1 hero than it is on, like, 1 negative token on every hero. I don't know. I'm not crazy about it, though. Maybe when I play it, I'll have a different opinion, but... Stinger Strike Plus, apply on crit. Nothing interesting. Binding Blade, DLC, Crusader. Radiance and Radiance Plus no longer require that skills be ranged to benefit from the burn res piercing buff. How does that change? Is it abilities that... Does it mean that, like, if you have a burn on hit, then the on hit from the burn on, like, a Reap or a Smite benefits from the burn rest too? Is that what that means? It seems... Unless I'm missing something. Or maybe that counts with, like, Fieldstone, where it burns them on hit? Maybe? I'm trying to think the like... Why that change is made. I mean, it's good. Even if it just adds a couple niche cases, that's still pretty good. I'm just trying to think, is there anything I'm missing? Radiance duration of burn rest piercing buff reduced from 4 to 3. Radiance now gets +2 speed for 3 turns. Okay. Radiance now gets +2 damage versus targets with burn for 3 turns. Okay. This sets up really, really well for Fieldstone then. Yeah, his hero trinket. Cooldown reduced. Regen increased. Okay. Regen plus regen duration increased from 3 to 4. Radiance plus now gets 4 speed for 4 turns. Wow. Retains the burn piercing for 4 turns. No longer gets plus 30% damage versus targets with burn for 4 turns. And Radiance plus now gets +2 damage versus targets. So I'm off the top of my head, the reason I get say switching it from plus damage to flat damage is plus damage. You have like Zealous. Plus 30% damage of like 2 is not going to do anything for you. Basically, it's the plus 30% damage kind of really only made it so like Smite, Reap, and Holy Lance, as opposed to this. Now it adds like a Zealous aspect to it, I suppose. Radiance has been revised to provide most of the value at base with incremental gains and better turn economy through improved duration for mastery. Improved speed allows the Crusader to set the dots up sooner, and the plus damage buff has been changed to a static increase. Better support low damage multi-hit skills such as Reap and Zealous. Yep, while still retaining some of the benefit the previous value would have had for heavy hitters such as Smite. That makes sense. So it's kind of like this. It not being a percentage base now nerfs the top end, but buffs the low end of things like Zealous. Okay, so let me look at that. Oh, that's a lot of things on one ability. Okay, so let's look at Unmastered first. Unmastered, regen, +2 speed. Interesting that they added speed in there. I guess just to give it an extra reason to press it. +2 damage when target burning. +20% burn piercing. I mean, if you're gonna press something that's not gonna do anything in the meaty, I guess it gives you regen, but if it's not gonna do something like, you know, give you a bunch of like debuff resists or stat resists or whatever, if you're gonna press something it's not gonna do anything right away, it's kind of gotta do a lot of things. So I wonder when that fits though. I mean, it could just fit in general. Honestly, you could do it for the speed value, the speed and regen. You don't have to get the bottom two technically if you don't want to. Obviously, it's a lot better too, but interesting ability. Seems like it has a lot of use now. I don't know where to fit that. That does seem interesting. Templar Smite plus great increase from 5% to 10% to match other versions of the skill. I think that's good. Banneret Rallying Cry cooldown increased from 2 to 3. Rallying Cry plus Immobilize increased from 1 to 2. Okay, so it's more impactful when you press it, but it has a longer cooldown. This is the immobile. Yeah, this is the one that immobilizes your whole team. Yeah, that's probably good. I don't think there's really any cases. Yeah, there's not really any cases where you would only want 1 immobilize, I feel like. I think 2 is pretty much good in every scenario as long as you use it in the right situation. That's probably good. Duelist Wanderer, again, plus no longer removes her current stance. I think that's a small change that is nice. Although, so here, let's look at Duelist again. So here, fundamentally, the issue, quote unquote, with Duelist again is that where does this, what purpose does this have? And obviously the purpose is clearing skill cooldowns. It's got a long fucking cooldown. It's got a 5-turn cooldown and a 2 use limit. The only thing that I can really, unless you want it as like an oh shit moment where like, I don't know, Banneret is your healer and you're like, you need to heal 2 turns in a row. You know, I guess something like Inspiring Tune, Jester could be good. It's kind of like, would you want to use this on something that has a 1-turn cooldown? Probably not, just as like a general rule. It's got to be something that has a 2-turn cooldown or higher. The only situation I've really seen for this is like Seraph. As far as like, obviously there's situations where like, yeah, like let's say like new More, now that More has a longer cooldown, like yeah, you could have him just spam taunt. Yeah, but is that worth running an ability on Duelist? I mean, I think for what it's worth though, I've always kind of said that like these 3 are kind of the only abilities that you need. If you're running Wanderer, I would say Disengage because it does have the push and pull. So you do have a free slot. I think Coup de Grace is a really, really good spot, but you technically do have on Wanderer Duelist a free slot. I like Ruthless Instruction, so maybe you just fit again in on there because she really only needs, like, honestly, she really only needs these 3 abilities. And I know there's probably a lot of people that don't understand Duelist. Surely someday I will make a Duelist guide. I would love to. I do really like Duelist, but I understand people's kind of hesitance a little bit to play her. But I still don't know. I think that's a good buff. I just still don't know what. Yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot of really long cooldowns in this game. I guess there are starting to be more. It's just one of those things that, like, again, it's not a bad ability. It is a good ability, but there's just not a lot of really long cooldowns in this game that feel worth throwing it on the bar. It's one of those things where, like, 2 years down the road, if they're, like, continuing adding characters or whatever they're doing with DD2, and there's a lot of longer cooldowns, this is gonna have really good uses. But I just don't know about now. It does. I don't know. Good buff though. I think it's a small change, but it's a good buff. Disengage damage increased only on Instructus. Oh, this matches its damage to other variations in the same skill. Okay. Ruthless Instruction and Ruthless Instruction Plus can now self-target. That's really interesting, actually. That is really interesting, actually. So she can stress heal herself now. Ooh, that's really interesting. That, I think for Instructus, that's a really big buff, actually. Because the only way she can stress heal herself is through killing when she's in defensive stance. And that only reduces 1, so it can be a bit slow. She gets kind of high. I kind of look at it similar as like a Wanderer Vestal thing, where Wanderer Vestal can Sanctuary to heal everybody else, but not herself. That's just sort of a downside. I don't see that as like bad. I see that as sort of a downside. I don't know what situation that you would make it to where she would give herself crit though. Just because this isn't a super offensive. Like, you can play it kind of offensively if you're gonna play it like this, but probably not on her. Probably like giving the crits to somebody else. But mainly the main thing is so that can stress heal herself. I think that's actually a. I know there's probably not a lot of people that are super hyped about that because it's Duelist and it's Instructus. I think that's a really big buff actually for making one tiny little switch. I think that's a really big buff actually. A-bomb, Beast Bomb Plus now deal increased blight amount and duration on crit. Same with Ichor. Ichor, by the way, Ichor Plus is a really efficient ability. Don't sleep on that. That's a really efficient ability. Oh, okay, so it does get the... Okay, so it gets the same as Poison Dart. Like, I know it doesn't do damage, but it does do Blight. It spreads the combo, and then now it increases Blight Dealt and duration. A really efficient ability, especially if you use a lot of combo. Don't underestimate that. Anything interesting in here? Beast Bile Plus now increase the amount and duration of Blight Dealt by +1 on crit. That's AoE. It hits the entire team, so that's kind of crazy. The latest Funeral Pile chance of strength increased from 25% to 33%. Fixed an issue with a couple of matches and only had 3 ranks worth of monsters instead of 4. I thought that was intentional. That was always weird. You'd have a ghoul with a zombie, but I was like, okay. Bishop, Purging, and Worthy now reflects and moves all positive tokens. Academic view changes. It's always good. Fleshy backhand damage buffs. Kind of crazy. It's a 17 crit, is it not? Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Oof. Tongue lash strength increase from 1 to 2. Moves the target forward or backwards based on the monster's preferred ranks. That's probably good. Respector always move 1. Some interesting changes in here for what is a relatively small, you know, kind of just adding some stuff in there. Radiance, big glow up from Radiance. Couple sleeper things in here that are pretty crazy. This is pretty crazy, although kind of niche. Any debuff resisted is part of the skill. That counts trinkets. That's fucking crazy. More change is definitely impactful. Be interesting to see how that feels. The Instructus big change. Lash's Gift, really interesting. It'd be interesting to see how that fits. How we kind of see that fitting into things. Really interesting. Small changes. Surprise, we got some changes. Interesting stuff. We'll have to see how that ends up playing out, especially the more and more cooldown. We'll have to see how that plays out. Either way, I will be testing. I'm doing kind of challenge runs on stream, but I'll try to test these kind of like whenever I get a chance. I hope you all have a nice rest of your day. Thank you for watching my video. I appreciate it. Remember, Hellion and Leper Guide next week. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Have a nice rest of your day. Subscribe and comment and stuff. Let me know what you think. Bye.